The end of leg one was such a rush. I mean, after fighting so hard for 28 days to keep on target, I didn't want to miss that flight. It was a massive, massive effort from crossing the Mongolian border to get to that flight in time.
There was a real mishap which I was absolutely gutted about. As we were coming into Beijing, we got separated from Mark because we were getting caught up by police sort of passport controls. And then as we came in, I suddenly realised we'd gone through a long tunnel, taking that, so he ended up slightly in a different location than what we did.
I got there at dark and we absolutely hightailed it to the airport. I mean, I don't think I've ever been through an international airport as quickly. It was a bit unsatisfactory, like there was none of that punctuation mark, we've done it, next. It was just a mad rush. So flying out, our flight was late, and arriving in Singapore, there was a real risk that we would miss the connection to Perth, Australia. The guys at Singapore Airlines were amazing and hightailed it through the airport, and just arrived at the gate just as it was closing. The flight was closing.
As we touched down in Perth, again it was just a swift, massively swift. I mean, from tarmac to him stepping onto his bike was 35 minutes, which is like unheard of. So he literally came off, straight through passport, right out, took a couple of photos, and then that's it. He was off on stage 2.
I felt great, and I had a tailwind, and I rolled out of Perth in great form. It was quite cool to clock up the most miles cycled in a month, just over 7,000 miles, because I'm all up for putting it on the map and hoping that it becomes a coveted event. Yeah, I'm proud of that. That's certainly the furthest I've ever cycled in a month. It was 2-3 days later, like getting into Australia, that psychologically I took a bit of a dip, not helped by the fact that going around Western Australia, around the coast there, by Albany and up to Esperance, I was getting absolutely battered by a sidewind. That sidewind for 2 days meant that I was constantly sort of subtly fighting it, just pushing my head into it, putting more through my right leg, just, having every time the trucks passed, entering the buffeting. And it just led to really sort of real difference between the right and the left hand side of my body. The whole right side hurt, whereas the left side was fine. I'm on the tri-bars a lot more. The roads are flatter. I'm not climbing nearly as much. It's a lot faster. There's a lot more for my neck to take. So I'm just gonna have to be careful and ride sensibly and really prioritise recovery as well. The start of Australia was tougher than I expected. I'd always worried that Australia would be a story about the winds, and that's exactly how it's turned out.
Because it's colder here, he's ended up doing double type of overshoes, which one's like a neoprene and then one's like a bit more of a waterproof shell. We always know with Mark, usually if he's getting a niggle like that, it's something external. So he's got more compression, and what's happened is it's just pressed the shoe into his Achilles on a certain edge, which meant he woke up with a bit of an Achilles, sort of where it inserts into the heel.
So keeping Mark warm has been a bit of an effort over the last few days. That first 4-hour shift is quite hard work. It's been kind of anywhere between 3 and 8 degrees, and certainly this morning's been quite damp. So we've been changing his kit on a regular basis. He's getting dry gloves just given to him on the bike, and his wet ones coming in. The kind of heaters in the front of the van have been blasting full blast all morning, dry and misting it beautifully. But at least it's making sure his kit's getting dried really kind of regularly. He's had a stop and a change of jackets there to get him warm and dry again, and then lots and lots of hot drinks going out. So he's had a couple of hot honey and lemons this morning. He had a coffee first thing on the bike to try and keep him perky and keep him warm. And in fact, he's been having scrambled egg wraps the last few mornings to try and give him something warm to eat when he's on the bike. But yeah, lots and lots of layers required to just keep him warm and dry in this sort of weather.
This is one of my strongest memories of cycling across Australia, getting here. And of course, 10 years ago I was on my own, packed with all the kit. I mean, it's interesting comparing my headspace now and 10 years ago. The fact that 10 years ago I was completely on my own, unsupported. I had all my kit in my bags. I'd call home, once a week or something. I'd have my camera, which I'd chat to at arm's length, and that was it. Whereas this time, I've got all you guys with me. I wouldn't say it's sociable for me because I don't have a lot of, I'm on my bike all day, but it's amazing to have that moral support.
Really pleased with how everything's been going. New team coming together, lots to learn. We hit the road fast, precious little time to learn, but it's gone really well. Everyone's getting on really well.
Mark riding along said something was wrong with the crank. We didn't know. He didn't know if it was a pedal or not, but it turns out he snapped the crank. So we've tried a couple of solutions. Either we try and get a new one sent from the UK, or we try and pick one up here in Australia before going to New Zealand. At the moment we're using the one off the spare bike, so we can't ride the spare bike. So if anything happens, I've just got to swap between the two, swap the component over, and then keep them going.
We almost lost our drone birdie due to perfect conditions, perfect footage. He even gave us a little wave, and on the way back, due to tailwinds, what's good for Mark but bad for me, we had awesome shots with Mark on the Great Cliffs. On the way back, battery ran low and it decided to land somewhere in the bushes. Luckily, everything was still intact.
9,000 miles, that's a major milestone for Mark. That's halfway around the world. There's going to be a massive boost to him to know that he's got that far, and effectively it's downhill from there, isn't it? We're over the midway point, and it's then a countdown.